Everyone, hello. I am so sorry that took so long. This entire event has been very much so a struggle. It was almost canceled because Harmony couldn't show up. But we're here. I'm trying to speedrun eating dinner before it's time to actually talk. LMAO. How's everyone doing tonight? I bet this is more enjoyable for you. You're listening to music and shit. It's just dead quiet for me. Oh, the music is louder than me. That's fucking awkward, isn't it? Okay, let me open up my YouTube and let me scarf down the rest of this pizza. No candidates trying their hardest not to send me death threats after I chew over them the entire fucking debate. Estoy, oh, you're existing? That's true. Doing great, that's good. It's interesting to see that we have 19 whole viewers, like damn. Peak. Did not know this many people cared about the debates. Oh, we have 21 viewers. Holy cannoli. Scarfing down pizza like it paid me $20 buying a Denny's to do it. Don't ask how I know about that. Don't even ask. Oh. Jesus Christ. The cat is literally eating people. Leave me alone. I'm not a fake cat. Only leaders are allowed in the nosebleeds, so you're gonna have to convince IRS that you're a leader. No, we still do not recognize the papal state. There is no such thing as a papal state. It doesn't exist. This is on account of Catholicism. I'm gonna get myself curled. So this is a very, very rushed debate. This didn't have as much time put into it for planning. Right? Being escorted out of the debate hall after struggling to wrap up mine. Dako, I was taking a walk the other day and I was at my bus stop at my house. Tell me why I see a wrapper from Mounds Bar on the floor. I saw the wrapper of fucking Mounds Bar. That was weird. I took like 5 pictures of it. All I could think about was Quagmire fucking saying, "Who eats a Mounds Bar?" Who the fuck? I've never seen someone actually eat a Mounds Bar. Why not just get an Almond Joy? Get an Almond Joy. Fucking, I swear there's another one that's like coconut and almonds. Who the fuck buys Mounds? Alright. I just chugged the entire day's worth of water. Oh, fuck. So, unfortunately for today's debate, unfortunately for today's debate, Anto Lisa of the Social Democrats of Kaiyaukuta could not show up. But we do have Mr. S.G. Weiss, I say Vis, W-I-S, of the Liberty Party, Mirabelle Moosen of the Party for National Works in Progress, and Winged Harmony of the Free Association of Kaiyakutanas Trade Unions. I remembered all those off the top of my head. You all should be proud of me. I only ever say Faktu. Fucking hell. My entire body is trying to tell me to stop. I just heard someone fall. Alright. Well, I should probably turn my chat off on account of, haha, no snitch logs for you. Alright, it's time. Unmuted my desktop audio. And now we are switching to in-game. Look at our audience tonight, everyone. I'd like to thank you for everyone to show up. Special thanks to Lead Addict and Varbo. I don't know who's that in the middle. Pretty Parfait. I don't know who that is. I don't know. And the Citizenry SSG is sitting in the citizens, like in the people's area. That's funny. Who's oh, I'm guessing that's Lead Addict. LMAO. Is Lead trying to break in? What the? We've got a lot of Kaiyaukutaners in the audience. For those of you at home, you're going to be able to, yep, thank you to IRS of Zhaohengshu for being our guard tonight. A member of the Stranbury City National Guard was supposed to show up, but with us being so late, issues arise. And thank you to the Observationist group for allowing us to use the Observationist Theater in Mubro for the event. With that out of the way, I'm going to unmute. And let's get this show on the road, shall we? We're gonna get this show on the road. Hello, everyone. Hello, candidates.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So, because I didn't have much time to prepare, we're gonna be very much so following a lot of the tradition of the last debate. If that's all right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how we're going to be doing this, because there's so many candidates, we're going to be going from right to left with the parties lined out from right to left, starting with a 1-minute introduction. Oh, I should probably get a timer ready. Starting with a 1-minute introduction by the Liberty Party. So that's device. I'm just going to really quick set a 1-minute timer. And it's starting now. You have the floor.
Okay, so I'm SG Wiz of the Liberty Party. The Liberty Party is a moderate libertarian party. Its main purpose is basically privatizing the land and allowing for a free market within Kaiyaukuta. Yeah, and we want to focus on further economic development of Kaiyaukuta, and yeah, I don't have much more to say.
Thank you very much. If you want to not use the rest of your time, I guess you could just say like what I waive my time, I suppose.
I waive my time.
I guess that works, everyone. When you're done talking, just say you waive your time. Just so I know when to.
Mhm.
All right. And now, the incumbent candidate for Govern Cal of the great state of Kaiyaukuta, Maribel Moosin of the Party for National Works in Progress. You will have 1 minute starting now.
I am the candidate for Pnwp, current governess, Govern Cal. And the Pnwp is a paternalist sort of center-right party, focused on building personal wealth for our people. Moderate social programs such as the public works department was what I ran on last time. Basically creating jobs where people are able to get fairly paid so that they can start doing their own thing. Is what I run on. And we're planning on doing a lot of industry in the near future. Doing a lot of money making and making jobs for. I waive my time.
All right, and that's time. Unfortunately, Aunt Lisa of the Social Democrats of Kaiyaukuta cannot show up as life got in the way. That's unfortunate. But, oh, I just got an ad. 1-800-GET-HAIR at www.hairdoctor.com with Dr. Mary Lepresti in chat. I have to stop. I need to go to gethair.com. I'm sorry. We have to end. All right, anyways. That was a little joke. That was a little gaffe. I'm trying to, I get told I should go into stand-up. I'm trying to be funny here.
You should maybe sit down instead.
rep- rep- representing the Free Association of Kaiyaukuta Trade Unions is winged 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 harmony of the. You have 1 minute starting now.
My name is Harmony. I represent the Free Association of Kaiyaukuta Trade Unions. We are a democratic socialist party who is, and our main platform currently is to just work on the industrialization of the nation. We understand that a lot of the people here are more downtrodden than they ought to be. And to give the current government credit, it is not due to anything that has gone awry with their own public works program. It is solely just down to the people not feeling engaged with a lot of those programs. And so a lot of that, a lot more in industry, just working on getting people working, getting more people in, freeing up a lot of the land for housing and development and farming, and just allowing the state to grow and allowing the people to prosper. And I waive my time.
All right, that's time. With that out of the way, we can get into general questioning. The audience is, I was going to say the audience is excited. I think someone left. I think my joke made someone leave. I think, oh.
Wow.
Well, so, oh, you're supposed to get 2 minutes. You know what? Whatever. I don't even go. Oh, there's a little bug on my, no, you have to go. You have to go. No, I'm sorry. The audience is throwing tomatoes at me in chat. So, the first question.
There's a pearl at you. Throwing potatoes at you.
You hate me. Don't fucking throw spuds at me. You know what? Sigh. Let Reddit sigh. Life moves on. Starting off with our first question. SG Weiss, how is it that you and your party will develop the Kaiyaukuta economy beyond where it is as we are right now? You have 2 minutes.
Mostly by allowing private enterprises and encouraging private enterprises. We hope that we can at some point be able to basically just have economy and government be two completely separate things, where the government does not involve itself within the economy at all. And we hope that that with the right regulation we can achieve that. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think we basically our policy on economics is not involving ourselves, but in the beginning still encouraging especially private persons to build up enterprises. Yeah, that's all.
All right. Oh, did you have more or?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. And Mirabelle, I'll ask you the same thing. How is it that the Pnwp intends to develop the Kaiyaukuta economy beyond where it is right now? You have 2 minutes to answer.
Well, as you know, and Kaiyaukuta in general knows, as they've been notified about it, is we do have a rather secret industry plan in the works currently. That's already bearing fruit, and I am planning to hire workers, but I also want to I want to really encourage people to make more shops and things of that nature. In general, it's disheartening to see people not engaging with the current social programs, and I don't believe I'm being disillusioned with my own social programs. current jobs without enough supervision and guidance that haven't been being taken advantage of, such as the sand mining program, even with free gear and such to do it, it just has not borne fruit. It's a hard subject. I have been trying to work towards getting more money together to get better tools for mining to distribute. But it's a tough economic situation at the moment. I think there's a lot of economic malaise at the moment. I think it's something strong needs to be done, and I hope to be able to implement something like that. Anyway, that I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. And Harmony, how is it that you and the Free Association intend to develop the Kaiyaukuta economy past where it is right now? And you have 2 minutes.
Much that we wish to do, as I've said in my opening statement, does include the expansion of industry of farms using much of the free land available, and spurring on citizen activity when it comes to many a social program, many a profession, and overall getting people to start building themselves up along with the nation that they reside in. We do have, just as the Pnwp does, we do have our own plans to really work on many of the different facets of the economy. A couple of ideas that we have had, and some that I do plan to implement, do include the expansion and completion of the domestic railway in order to get people from factory to factory much quicker. We do also need to assure that more people are engaged in, again, a lot of the professions that we are doing. Establishing nationalized farms and businesses, not impeding on those already privatized and owned by people. We do not wish to take property away from the people, and instead just giving them more options and more ways to build, again, themselves and the nation up, and other things of that ilk. I wish not to speak on it too much, and I don't wish to overstay my time, so that is my piece.
Thank you very
I
much.
waive my time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Would any of you like to respond to what any of your fellow candidates had to say? Or
I would like to. I wonder. People talk of making new farms all the time here. My question is where if we want to keep the current Kaiyaukuta landscape the way it is, and like preserve natural beauty, that and the expansion of farms are incompatible fundamentally. So my big question is, where do you plan on making these farms? Both of you, since both of you are planning on that.
I haven't said anything on making.
Well, yeah,
farms.
but if you're privatizing the land, it kind of.
Well, land can be used for different things.
I
except for
suppose.
farms.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
as for me, I do understand that the preservation of the land within Kaiyaukuta is precious, as we do not have much of it. However, much of the land in the south is some of the only real arable land that we do have in the nation that is still not in use. And we do need to find a balance between what we use for domestic production of goods and what we preserve for the natural beauty of the state. I do believe there is a little bit more that we can do to develop some of that land, but I do agree that the preservation of some of these lands is important, and it should not be overdone to ruin the great beauty of this nation.
Well, I'd just like to say also, unless you plan on developing farms directly next to houses, which I guess is an option, most of the land has been eaten up by development already. And the few bits that have been untouched by farms and trees, because naturally no trees grew here, so anywhere that there is a tree, it is fundamentally touched, and not natural. That's sort of my question.
Could you summarize your statement there?
It just seems like unless you plan on getting rid of the last vestiges of untouched land, there's not really any way you can build new farms.
I do believe I disagree with that. There is, I do agree that there is not too much land that hasn't yet been touched, and I do want to leave as much of that as untouched as can be. I believe when I say that we do need to develop extra land, some of it is more so in the areas where there may not be a settlement, there may not be land that is directly owned or incorporated into a nearby settlement. That has still been used for, say, planting trees and whatnot. That could potentially be repurposed for public farms and the like.
Okay. And do you plan on achieving that by requisitioning the land from local governments?
No, I don't believe that's possible. I had just stated that a lot of that land that I do wish to use is not incorporated into settlements or local governments. And much of what they do directly own and have within their own territory should be, what is done with that land should be left up to the town.
Okay. I'm just looking at the map, though, and I don't. There's maybe one place that I can see you could make a farm, but there's not a lot. I feel like it's not genuine to run on more farms as a platform when you can basically only fit maybe one or two smaller ones.
That insinuates that more farms was one of the only points that we have, which is not the case. It is one of the many things that we do wish to do. It does not mean that we will be making, say, like 5 separate farms, as you've already stated. That is untenable. We simply do not have the arable land to be able to do that. That hasn't already been incorporated into a local settlement. When it comes to a lot of produce that we must have within the state, some of it we can produce, but we don't have the land for much of it, and much of that should be just brought in through imports where possible. There's only so much that we can do, again, with the land that we have. It's good to be realistic about these types of things.
I also wonder what you mean by industrialization. Do you have any concrete plans for any industries?
We do have a couple of plans. Those are still very much within planning, later stages of planning within the party. One of the big ones that I do really want to do is just further a lot of the material factories that we do have, minimal factories. And just one of the bigger things when it comes to industrialization is just allowing ourselves to be able to more quickly produce a lot of what we want to do, and a lot of that is complicated with the fact that the factories are so far apart, which is why I was really relieved when I saw the beginnings of a domestic rail system, and it's why I would want to continue that should I be, voted into the position of governor. There were many things that we have. I do not believe that an on-the-spot response would be the best place to go in depth with some of this. If people wish to ask me about such later, I would be more than happy to oblige. But we only do have so much limited time here.
I do have one more question, but I will save it.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much. I suppose I should move on to the next question. Starting with the Liberty Party. Oh wait, it's actually something I need to check real quick. I need to see if I have the thing that lets me bleep something out, just in case. I'm just gonna see if I have that. Let me see. Do I not have that? I don't have that? Oh, that's annoying. I seriously don't have that? Oh, no, wait. It's gotta be somewhere. Ain't that a bitch? Alright, whatever. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to see if I had it. Just checking on the... Oh, someone just jumped off the top. That's fucking crazy. So starting with SGYs, how is it that you intend to firstly expand the nation's population, but also increase housing across the country, as currently we're in a little bit of a housing crisis, especially in Stranbury? You have 2 minutes.
But first of all, getting more people into the country, I believe we already are getting more people into the country. Just posting adverts in the Civmc Discord, or generally just recruiting new people that show up on the server, as we have been. In terms of housing, I believe housing would be made possible by basically just creating a lot of housing, not by the government, but by private peoples who will then sell that housing. Of course, that would cost money for new players, but it would still allow for more housing to be created. But personally, or the Liberty Party won't personally or go out of the way to create new housing or government housing. That is all. I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. I just heard a shot get fired. That's no good. I heard a gunshot. That's a little bit worrying. There's a gun there. Is that Cecilia with the gun? Cecilia, put down the gun. Don't shoot people. Mirabelle, I'll ask you the same question. How do you expand our population and housing in your second term? You have 2 minutes. That's the wrong button.
It's also a kind of difficult one. Most of the programs I have set up haven't been made use of. It seems to be that even with encouragement and like the allowing of citizens to make their own buildings and housing, even with encouragement with pay, people don't seem to want to. Which leaves it up to the few of us who do hop on quite regularly, I feel, to make these houses, unfortunately. Um, uh, I'm I'm just gonna have to work a lot harder. I'm gonna have to start making houses for as many people as I can. Because not a lot gets done otherwise. It's 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 the sad reality I found. Um, and usually, I would say I would say the population has been growing quite steadily. Um, with current efforts and stuff. Because how many people are we at now? Like, isn't it what? Are we above?
We are at.
Are we about like 30?
We have 41 people who haven't quit. 43 people on the name layer.
Yeah, 43 people in the name layer. And last election we only had 20. So we've basically like doubled in population since last time. I feel like we are growing steady with the current efforts we are doing. I think the main problem we are facing is housing. Not a lot of things are getting built unless the few that are building do it. And that just means I need to sort of step up. And I suppose that's what I plan on doing. I can encourage social programs as much as I want, but until our citizens start using them, there's not a lot that can be done otherwise. I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. Harmony, I'll give you a chance to answer the question yourself. You have 2 minutes.
I do believe I have to agree with Mira on the topic of population. I do believe we are actually growing quite steadily. The population boom that we've had, at least within the last couple of weeks alone, I believe has been quite substantial and a very welcome thing to see. And I do agree that housing has become quite a bit of an issue, and a lot of it is due simply down to people not, participating in a lot of these social programs that the current government is taking down, which is one of the things that I will very much praise the current government for. I do believe these social programs, these social works, are something to, celebrate and something that people really should be further feeding into. Sad reality is that they aren't, and there does need to be, more effort taken from both citizens and the government in order to get people to participate in these programs and in order to help with building more housing. I do believe another thing that needs to be brought up in terms of that is zoning, where I believe that a lot of it within current settlements tends to be very restrictive and tends to make creating housing without expansion of these areas quite a bit difficult. It is something that I would want to work with local governments on in order to help kind of establish more mixed-use zoning in order to allow further settlements to be built alongside shops and whatnot in order to not impede on the space that those use. And I just do simply agree there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And with that, I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. Would any of you like to respond to any of your fellow candidates' statements?
I would like to respond to SG
Yes.
and their idea of people selling houses and like that idea. I am very much against that idea, especially when our citizens are currently so poor. Like half of the people still complain about not being able to get a diamond pick, let alone buy a house. I feel like that is wishful thinking in our current economic state.
Well, the prices for houses are obviously negotiable. You can't, obviously people that would construct houses can't sell them for incredibly high prices if nobody will buy them. So I feel like allowing people to privately construct housing would also force them to sell that housing at a reasonable price, where people could actually afford said housing.
I don't think it's realistic in Kaiyaukuta for housing to be sold at the moment. Even if the houses are cheap, some people complain about like not being able to go mining for long enough because they can't afford enough iron pickaxes. So either we're going to have extremely cheap housing that isn't good quality and has to be sold low. We're going to have people being underpaid for building houses, so people aren't going to want to build houses. It's kind of wishful thinking, in my view.
I feel like that's mostly an issue with, yes, our current economic situation, as you have said. But I feel that with more private industries being built and those proceedings going to people who are doing the industry, a lot of people would start to begin to have money to be able to buy houses.
I mean, it's a nice thought, but if people don't have anywhere to live in the first place, what if they go? What if they die? Well, they're at work and they have to respawn like 1,000 blocks away or something.
Yeah, I mean, the Liberty Party don't thinks that, for example, we could definitely have, for example, barracks for new players. That is not an idea that the Liberty Party is against, but actual housing the way it is now, that was and still is given out to people. I don't believe, and the Liberty Party doesn't believe that this should continue to happen. I believe that is costs the government a lot of money and is overall not a good idea. We should instead be encouraging the private construction and private selling of housing.
Well, I I if costing the government a lot of money is the problem, it really shouldn't be if I'm the one funding it personally. I've basically put all of my own personal funds into the public works department. It is now set aside for things that like are exclusively for that. And that includes housing, and people are able to sign up and build their own houses. That is something you're allowed to do. Like, and you'll get paid for it. It's I think it's imagine if it's a government program where you build a house, you design and build a house, and then you sell it to the government basically, and the government can give it out. That's basically what we're doing. And or not even just houses, just buildings in general. And I think that's a fine enough system. I mean, unless you care personally about the financial burden of being put on me, or I suppose future governments. I don't agree. I don't agree, and I don't think it's a good idea.
I mean, I do care about potential burdens put on future governments, as if I was elected, it would put a financial burden on me. And I don't think the current head of state should need to pay their own private property into government funds.
I think it's the responsibility of the government to take care of its citizens in a fashion that uplifts them so that they can take care of themselves. And I don't believe that's what you're. I think that's where we differ.
That's fair.
Is that all the?
That's all.
All right. Harmony, is there anything that you wanted to add?
I just wish to agree with the statement that Mir had made on it is the government's responsibility to care for its people, to assure that its people are able to have the means to care for themselves and uplift themselves through the society that they are put in. As ultimately, the citizens elect the government to serve them. It is the government's responsibility to serve the people who put the government in charge in the first place. And so, if that is something that SG WIS disagrees with, that is quite frankly something that I could never see us seeing eye to eye on.
All right, thank you very much. So I had actually prepared. Sorry, I had actually been prepared. Who the fuck? I thought that was an Enderman. I've actually prepared.
Hey, what is SSG doing?
Iris, get SSG down. Where did Varbo and Led go? Where did everyone go? That's more suspicious, if anything. Where's Varbo and Led? Oh no, Varbo's there. Varbo would never do anything wrong. No, but where's Led? I mean, can we get SSG down? There we go, we got SSG down. Thank you, IRS. Thank you, IRS. God fucking damn it. Alright. Anyways, so the question I have for you, SG, is, reading your policy, I mean, of course it's been fairly libertarian in its, in its stances. So I guess I'm wondering, why is it that a Kaiyaukuta should vote for a party that wants to cut down on the amount of aid that they already have when many people already believe it's not enough? And that you have 2 minutes for that.
Well, mainly because Kaiyakutans we do want to cut down on the aid, but it's mainly because well, we believe that people should work for their own wealth, and all of these government programs and as we can see aren't really working, and then I believe that having all of these things that are now so encouraged and by the government, having them be private and having people just be able to do their own thing and gather their own wealth, and allowing for people to create their own wealth would work better than the current system we have. And I don't think I don't think that a lot of people are personally they are complaining about there being too little government aid, just that they have too little money, and that would be solved by them being able to properly create and manage their own industry, and being able to farm and to do other things like create housing privately, for example, with builders, where the Liberty Party, or I believe that there isn't any need for government intervention, that people themselves will just, if they are allowed to buy land and use that land to, for example, construct housing, would then naturally do that and create housing and then sell that housing without any need for government intervention. And I don't think it's an issue of the government social programs being not expansive enough, but that the possibilities of people being able to create their own wealth aren't big enough, and there aren't enough of that. I waste my time.
All right, thank you very much. Next, I'd like to move on to a question that I wrote for the PNWP. That being, given that you are the incumbent,
Mhm.
I suppose Kaiyaukutaners, I mean, there's definitely a level of economic unrest. So I'm wondering, and dissatisfaction as well. So I'm wondering what you'll do differently this term than last term to mobilize those who, as you've brought up, haven't been taking advantage of opportunities, and what you'll do, to break the kind of economic stagnation that we've had going on right now. And you have your 2 minutes to address.
Well, with my own current industrial projects expanding, I am planning on being able to put more money into the government for a couple new social programs, mostly industrial programs. Specifically, being able to fund a government pickaxe fund where we buy up, ideally locally produced pickaxes and distribute them to miners. Hopefully, stimulating the local economy, of course, in Stranbury, where pickaxes are produced. But also being able to make it so others can go mine, since the only enthusiasm I see for a lot of the economic side of Kaiyaukuta is in mining, unfortunately. I see mining as a not as efficient way of gathering wealth, going for diamonds in the mines, but it is the most engaging, I think, for a lot of our Kaiyaukutaners. And more on a more personal thing, I'm planning on, since I have actually started with my own art, I'm planning on making my own like propaganda posters to try and inform and encourage people to actually use the programs I did set up in my last term, or in this current term. But that's all.
All right, thank you very much. And Harmony, as a lot of Kaiyaukutaners, and especially I, have criticized the Free Association for, is that generally its economic policy, or at least its real policies and things it's actually done, have been, if not equal, but perhaps even slightly less progressive than those set forth by the PNWP. So I'm wondering, how is it that the Free Association of Kaiyaukuta for Trade Unions intends to sort of live up to the leftist name while also growing the economy in that regard? As in, like, how is it that they'll stick to, a socialist democratic pledge when in comparison to all parties except for the Liberty Party, it is practically the same fiscally? And I'll give you your 2 minutes.
I do believe a lot of our position relative to what the current incumbent party has, our view in terms of how far we are on the left in terms of economics. It comes down to the fact that in terms of economics and in terms of the way that it has been handled, the incumbent government has actually been quite progressive for its label in terms of the programs set up and a lot of the opportunities that it is handing its citizens. Much of what I want to do is simply to more so expand on that and try and assure that much of these systems have more of a say by the citizens and more agency given to the citizens in order to, once again, build up their own and the nation's wealth. There is a lot that needs to be continued from the current government, as again, I do believe they have been very progressive and very successful in setting up, good systems and programs that the citizenry just simply need to more so be informed on and better engage with. And I do believe just by better democratizing that and giving more so agency to the citizenry as a whole, that would be a better way to live up to our ideals of advocating for every citizen within the nation. And with that, I yield my time.
All right, and would any of you like to address what any of the others have said?
I think I had something to say about SGs, but I have forgotten because we did 3 different questions.
My apologies. With that, this is where we took break last time, but I suppose we could take audience questions real quick. If anyone wants to send questions in the stream chat, I'm just going to give them a moment. Just say your in-game username next to it, and then I'll move it up to the candidates. Just say what candidate you're asking the question to. Please, only if you're actually in the audience also. I just want to make sure that those who show up get their fair chance. I'm going to give them about a minute to do that. And if we don't get one, then we're going to go straight for our 10-minute break. Antalisa is in stream chat. Just said claps for harmony. That's
I
it.
appreciate the support.
No question yet. Gonna give it a little bit longer. All right, nobody? Does nobody have... nobody in the audience has any questions? Oh, Zillicon is... All right. All right, so I've got 2 questions. Firstly, from Zillicon Viper of Cliffwick. This is a question for all candidates. What are your positions on expansion through modest land reclamation, similar to IRL cases like in the Netherlands?
I don't mind it, I suppose, but the main reasons for it in real life were for farming purposes, and a lot of that land that was reclaimed in the Netherlands is farmland. We can't do that in Kaiyaukuta because of just the biomes don't check out.
Would anyone else like to address that question?
I genuinely hold the same statement. I do not mind the idea of land reclamation itself for development. However, in terms of mainly farmland, in in the way that is tends to be used with land reclamation, it is simply not possible with the biome that Kaiyaukuta is predominantly set in.
All right. SG, is there anything you'd like to add?
I also agree mostly with what the other party representatives have said. But I do think that there are still many opportunities, for example, urbanization on top of what is currently the ocean.
Well, all right. I have a question from Sarah of Nashburg asking how the candidates feel about amending / editing the right to private property with no like question about what that specifically means. So does anyone have any opinions on that? Or...
It's an iffy question. I can understand it from the perspective of wanting everyone to be able to do it, but also to be able to, I guess I don't know, because most of the private property is controlled by government. In Kaiyaukuta, there's one factory, like factory in the entirety of Kaiyaukuta, and then there's a couple farmlands that are privately owned. I feel I feel as if it isn't as relevant as it could be. I mean, unless you plan on privatizing farms, making farms public completely. Which I suppose I can see a point for. But I'm on it. Is my opinion.
All right. Does anyone else have any input?
Could you repeat the question that was asked by Sarah?
The question was, how do the candidates feel about amending / editing the right to private property?
I don't believe that the right to private property should be majorly changed. I do believe that the way private property is, it tends to be treated by the people who own such, should be freed up a bit. I do believe that a lot of people's private property does tend to be just that. And a lot of it, while it does go to the success and growing wealth of that particular person, a lot of the time it only tends to do just that, and not much of it does tend to go into the state as a whole. However, that is solely down to just the way that the person treats such a land, and I am not one who would wish to strip the rights of personal property away from people by amending such things. It would solely be down to advocating for a change in the way that it is treated.
All right, and SG Ice, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Well, the Liberty Party intends to fully privatize most of currently government-held land. So I don't think there would be any changes to current law regarding private property, except for maybe more formalizing it a bit more by for example, drawing maps with showing the properties of different citizens. But definitely we wouldn't ever try to take away any private property. In any case, we would try to expand the amount of private property and um, sell off most of the currently government-held land.
All right. And would anyone like to respond to what anyone else said there?
I just have some concerns about sort of selling off all of the land in Kaiyaukuta. It feels short-sighted almost, considering we have not a lot of room. We are a very small nation for the amount of population we have, and I feel like continuing to sell off more and more of the country, we're eventually going to get to a place where it's there's going to be some inefficient land use, and if it's not regulated by the government, we're just going to be stuck with a bunch of poorly used garbage, frankly.
Well, if land, for example, is owned by a private person, it's not like for another private person then can't purchase that land again from the person that already owns that land. So
Well,
if,
yes, but if, say, this person becomes inactive, then it can't be purchased because, or if they just don't want to sell, even if they're misusing the land, it's sort of the problem there.
But if, for example, a person becomes inactive, there could definitely be laws made to um for example, if a person is inactive for a very long time and doesn't play on the server at all, you could have that land then go back to the government, but only obviously in extreme cases. And if a person is unwilling to sell the land, I mean, that's possible, but honestly unrealistic because there's always sums of money that would be so such large amounts of money and diamonds that would almost convince any person to sell their private property.
I suppose I just believe a more thorough and metered methodical sort of plan is better for long-term growth here.
But in that case, you're also assuming that private persons are completely unable to manage the land. I'm sure that a lot of the people who would own land would then put it to good use in order to increase their own capital.
I understand that perspective, but also, I remember the question I had for you earlier. If you're planning on selling government land, why
Yes.
wouldn't just the richest members of our country just buy it all up? Because we do have some severely wealthy people in our country that could afford to buy as much as they could get.
I mean, yeah, but that is definitely a possibility that a lot of the very rich people would buy most of the land, but you could price it at a point where it would not be possible for one person, for example, to buy all the land. And even if that a lot of those people then own that land, they still have to use that land. If they aren't going to use it, then there's no point. A person buying that land would then, for example, allow another person maybe to build a farm on said land, even if that's the different matter of how many farms are still possible to be built in Kaiyaukuta. But you could definitely have a person own all of the land, but they would, or a few people own a lot of the land, and still that land would still be used.
Yeah, but I understand that, but wouldn't that just turn us into a sort of feudal economy, like a feudal renter economy? Is that what we want for Kaiyaukuta?
I mean, I feel like that's what it is currently, but the government is the person that rents out that land, for example, with farms.
Well, but there isn't rent, is there? Like, you were given a farm.
Yes.
You were given area to build a farm, and you've been paid every time someone wants goods from your farm. You haven't been
Yeah.
stolen from at all. You haven't been
I've been paid
forced
for
to
the
pay rent
labor,
at all.
yes.
I,
Yeah,
I,
no.
I fail to see how these two very different scenarios are the same.
That's fair, but well, the Liberty Party and I still believe that if we were to sell land, and even if it would result in only a few people being able to afford said land, it would still be a better system.
And where would this money that you're getting from selling land go to? If you're planning on cutting public programs, what would it actually go to?
This is a part of our policies. We intend to attempt to buy more land, basically expand not through military means but through monetary ones.
Um. Hmm. Um. Are you planning on reforming some of the laws to do with expansion? Because it does need to be brought to a vote every time of both the party that is being annexed and also of Kaiyaukuta itself.
I mean, if it's being purchased, I'm sure that's amendable with most of the people that live there. I'm sure if there is a proper process of purchase there, that most people living in that country and also Kaiyakutans would be willing to accept this transfer of land via vote.
Okay. I'm I'm not so sure I agree. I personally, if our government sold our land to someone, I would be extremely upset and I would not vote for that. Um,
That's fair, but it's also a matter of how much land we have in relation to how much land many other nations have, where other nations have large amounts of land that go unused and only have a very small population. Land we could use if we bought it, and I think that it's easier to convince. For example, in Kaiyaukuta, it would be definitely would be hard to sell any land because there are so many people, and if you were tried to sell a bit of land, you'd be selling multiple people's residences to another nation, but that wouldn't be the case if you were buying from a nation land from a nation which has a lot of land and that land is only sparsely populated.
I suppose. I there is also a more growing trend after the mistake in Signal, of no expansionism even through purchases. So I'm not sure if it would be accepted by Kaiyaukuta, and if it wasn't accepted by Kaiyaukuta, do you have any plans to address that?
I mean, if it isn't accepted by the populace, there's not a lot we can do because we value the democratic process. But obviously, I think it would be not that difficult to convince people that this would be a good idea, just thinking of the many opportunities, economic opportunities, and other opportunities the acquisition of new land would bring.
I understand that point, but I'm sure you have a backup plan, right? Of like what you would do with the funds if you couldn't get new land.
Well, the Liberty Party still intends to continue the construction of infrastructure. We believe that that is very much necessary, and one of the things that should, for most parts, still be in the hands of the government. So most of those funds would, in that case, go, for example, of the construction of the direct line to Pavia. And by paying people a lot more for constructing that, for boring that tunnel.
Okay. That's all.
All right, thank you very much. Because of how long that took, I think we're gonna need a 10-minute break real quick. Just give candidates a chance to, get some water, use the restroom. Give anyone else who's trying to come to the audience a chance to get here. And yeah, we'll be right back with the foreign policy segment of today's broadcast, and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second Kaiyaukuta national debate. Now we're moving on to the foreign policy section of today's questioning. So foreign policy in Kaiyaukuta, as I'm sure everyone here knows, has been somewhat volatile lately. It's starting to cool down, but the past 2 weeks has been a very volatile time for Kaiyaukuta politics. So I guess I just want to ask for anyone watching, listening, anyone watching the VOD, thank you to all. I need more caffeine. Liberty Party, can I hear SG Vice, your Liberty Party's external and foreign policy goals and plans? You have 2 minutes.
Well, we want to mostly well, our big foreign policy and foreign goals sort of thing is that we want to purchase land. But in terms of foreign relations, mainly we're very neutral towards any nations. We don't really support the war that has happened in Signo, and we think that there should be moves to make amends. And overall, we would like to keep Kaiyaukuta out of any major alliances and overall remain a neutral nation. That is all. I wait my time.
All right, and Mirabelle, I'd like to ask what the PNWP's foreign policy goals will be for the next term. You have 2 minutes.
First of all, hold on, I need to DM you something to ask if it's public enough that I can talk about it.
All right. I mean, you're the government. That's your call.
True, but
no, that's
okay.
Knowledge.
Okay. So I would like to further trying to join the SSDC. I believe it's a far more trustworthy alliance than the WAC, which was a major blunder in diplomacy for me. I will say, they were not a good alliance to be in. But also, I would really like to get closer to, at least Signal, but preferably NSO as a whole. I'm quite fond of NSO. I've been able to be lucky enough to talk to NSO government members quite a bit more after the whole debacle, and I'm quite fond of NSO because of it. Also, continuing our stuff with Pavia. We got that treaty signed with Pavia, and that I believe that's going to be a huge economic driver. And furthering relations with Pavia is always good in my view. That's all.
All right, and may I hear and just for anyone who just joined, the Social Democrats of Kaiyaukuta weren't able to attend, so we are going straight to the Free Association of Kaiyaukuta Trade Unions. Can I hear your foreign policy? You have 2 minutes.
One of the major foreign policy decisions that we have ended up falling into, especially regarding due to recent events, especially the conflict with Signo, is we realize that a lot of the alliances that we have, not a lot, but the alliances that we had aligned ourselves with prior tended to not be for the best of the nation. And we have found ourselves more or less being taken advantage of, where we should have been equal partners with those that we partner ourselves with. And I do believe some sort of soft reset when it comes to foreign policy due to that is necessary. I am for trying to restart relations and better them with NSO as a whole, especially with Signo. and I am also a proponent of joining the SSDC. So, and at least when it comes to Pavia, I personally do not feel that I, as of current, have enough information to properly say my position on that. And and that is definitely something I will definitely look into. And with that, I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. I think a topic that I think last night was when it really blew up, or the night before at least, was the city of Nashburg and the Social Democrats of Kaiyaukuta threatening civil war over the idea of believed election interference. And while I know that Free Association has already condemned it, I suppose I'm just wondering, with political tensions rising ever more daily in Kaiyaukuta, I mean, what is it that we necessarily should do, especially if, for example, a party were to gain foreign support? I suppose just what moves is it that our country could take to secure a safer democracy? And I'd like to start with the Liberty Party.
Well, the Liberty Party isn't against the idea of support from the outside, but the idea of secession, for example, as you have mentioned, is something we don't really support, as it's an attack on the state of Kaiyaukuta. And we think that while the democracy is very much important, and that we should definitely try to protect it as much as possible, and to stop some of the radicalist forces from outside of the nation influencing politics within the nation too much. And I believe that there should be legislature against that, so that support for parties should come a majority from within the nation, and that while it's not inherently bad that a foreign nation might support a government within Kaiyaukuta, it shouldn't be that the only support for a party gets is from a foreign nation, and that the majority of support and donations in that instance as well is from domestic sources. I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. Mirabelle, your response? You have 2 minutes.
I have been contemplating implementing a law against foreign lobbying. I'm quite against parties being like influenced by the outside, especially receiving funds specifically for a party. I don't approve of that. I think I don't think it's ethical. And I think it is foreign encroachment on our democracy. Encroachment. I'm not. I don't like it. And I I I don't know, because I think we need to really. I think I need to stop dragging my feet and get this military bill done before the election, so that we have some sort of way to fight back against this sort of thing, especially if there's like secession talks. I think I waive my time.
All right, thank you very much. And Harmony, your chance to address the issue of threats of civil war, especially with foreign backing.
Hmm. Of course, when it comes to civil war and really any sort of movement to violently combat a, a nation's government, specifically the one of the citizen who is revolting, I do not believe that uh, a civil war should ever really have space to have foreign backing. Not only that, but foreign backing in general for political parties and for movements such as that, secessionist, civil war, anything of the like, it should be pushed back upon. As much as I do believe that some sort of, like say, um, international support for a party's policies, that is fine. When it comes to monetary backing, when it comes to material backing, when it comes to, promises of involvement, that should entirely be pushed back on and assured that it does not happen. And it is something that, yes, we do absolutely need to, have domestic means to push back against. It is something that I believe I agree near fully with when it comes with Mira. And with that, I waive my time.
All right. I think that was about it. Lisa asked if she could say anything since she's free. I think I'm gonna have to decline as you failed to arrive. I don't think it would be fair to let you just kind of show up midway through, say one thing, and then leave. Just for the sake of time, we're gonna move on to the next question. That being the future of Kaiyakuta's situation in South Aelnerith. Our nation has been, through its history, somewhat split between periods of being pro-Scandic and being pro-Aniso. As of current, those are the two, most dominant powers which directly involve us. I know last time I asked, which nation that people think we should cooperate more. And I think especially after the war and, the diplomatic fallout afterwards, I think the question gets far more complex. So I'm going to first ask the Liberty Party, do you think Kaiyaukuta should follow a policy more in line with Aniso, more in line with Scandic, or a neutral third party?
As I've already said, I think, and the Liberty Party believes that we should try to remain as neutral as possible, but still have good relations with all of our major neighbors and try to make amends with Aniso for the things that have happened, but also try to not um
Oh God. Who the fuck is Climavore? It was a new friend? Okay.
So I was right to question who that was. I don't think anybody did.
Iris just is explaining the situation. I don't know if you still have him muted. Oh. It's it's not good.
Iris, sorry, I was muted. I was saying there's just been a terrorist attack. Iris, can you tell everyone what just happened?
Okay.
Or?
Yes. So that was a new friend. They had been reaching out to me for a while for requesting asylum, I guess. I told them I would not provide them asylum, but I did mention that I was currently in Kaiyaukuta, and they have now showed up and cheated and killed 2 people. They are now pearled. I will be storing them in my vault or giving them to someone else. I have not decided yet. We will see.
Yeah, can we get that in a Scandic vault? Or can we have that put in a Scandic vault real
This will
quick?
not be going to the Scandic vault.
Oh, alright.
There are prior claims on this pearl.
Oh, fair enough.
I was actually planning on pearling this person before, because this person had attacked a friend of mine. I did not want to do it during the debate though. And I did not realize that they were actively aggressive, and I am very sorry for that.
No, it's alright. I'm just glad. I mean, I hope everyone gets their stuff. I'm glad
Everyone's stuff is in this chest. I'm really hoping that nobody takes anything that doesn't belong to them. Sarah, if someone takes something that isn't theirs, let me know. I will track it down.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you very much for
with that, I
protecting
will be
everyone.
holding on to this pearl. I am so sorry, everyone.
No, it's
I also
alright.
I also would very much like someone currently has my pearls. About 16 or about 15 pearls. I would really appreciate it if I could have those back, just in case something happens again.
Oh my god, a terrorist attack.
I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the help.
I,
Sorry the Strawberry
course.
City Guard isn't here right now. He's probably
why I'm
busy.
here.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute you again.
Holy shit.
Sorry that you're in the muted zone all
No
night.
problem. I'm not worrying about it. I am not an active participant in this debate. I
Yeah.
hope everything continues to go well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just gonna mute you real quick. Thank you. Yeah, that was intense. I'm glad that I put this glass sheet up here, keep everyone safe. SG, I mean, have you finished your statement, or should I move on to Mirabelle?
I mean, one last sentence. Basically, to summarize, I believe Kaiyaukuta should remain mostly neutral and try to keep positive relations with most, if not all, nations which are relevant.
All right, Mirabelle, I just want to ask about your opinion on if we should be aiming for closer relations with Anitho, with Scandic, or being sort of a neutral party. You have 2 minutes.
I'm more leaning towards Aniso as of recent. Scandic has generally betrayed my trust at the moment, and they haven't really tried to make up for it in any sort of way, I feel. I don't really hear anything from Scandic. And Aniso has been, agreeable and has been willing to talk with me and communicate. I do think we should try and lean towards being neutral, but I'm for closer ties with Aniso. That's all.
All right, thank you very much. Harmony, I'd like to ask you the same question, and you have 2 minutes.
And though I do have a whole 2 minutes, I do not wish to waste much time, and I do find myself in a similar boat once again to Mira when it comes to foreign policy. I do believe that Scandic has, especially with the conflict that we were put into, betrayed our trust and has not really done much to remedy the fact that they have done so. Meanwhile, as I keep hearing, Aniso has been, quite willing to work things out and generally start a more positive page in terms of relations. And if that is something that they are willing to do, then that is absolutely something that I would also be willing to back and support. So, and with that, I waive my time.
All right, since everyone was mostly on the same page, I suppose I can move on to the planned specific questions. So for the Liberty Party, I have 2. Firstly, and I'm just going to ask them both, and then you can answer them one after the other. Firstly, I want to know why it is, especially after it is, that we fought the War of Kaiyaukuta or humiliation, why it is that you believe it's still politically appropriate to advocate for expansionism, especially when an attempt at expansionism just, I mean, for a while, Kaiyaukuta global relations were, I mean, just in the floor. And then also on top of that, why is it that you would attempt a sort of neutral stance when historically, both on server and IRL, being a neutral state, if you don't have a large enough population or economy to support it, I mean, right now we have maybe 3 sets of God gear in the entire country. We're not armed enough to protect ourselves as a neutral state. So I suppose I wonder why you're supportive of both expansionism and of a position which leaves us, lacking in allies. So take as long as you need.
Um, well, at the first point, well, I think there's a major difference between military expansionism and well, the expansion of territory using monetary means. Purchasing territory is very different from conquering territory, and I don't think that there are the same issues with purchasing territory that there are issues with conquering it militarily. I don't think purchasing territory creates ill will or can lead to humiliation or any of that sort. It's mostly just a negotiation, and if those negotiations fail, then there's uh, nothing that happens except so well, in opposite to a war, which when a war fails, it obviously results in often concessions and humiliation in the case of Kayakuta. And so to summarize, I think it's very different, two different things, that conquering territory and purchasing territory. And I don't think you can really compare them that much. And I don't think purchasing territory has the same faults as conquering territory has. On the other hand, the other question you've asked is, well, I believe that remaining neutral in most affairs is a much better idea than getting involved, especially in terms of alliances. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have alliances and that we shouldn't try to have guarantees for independence, but I don't think it's a smart idea to join a military alliance which will then bring us into war. I think a much better idea is to just have positive relations with the countries that surround us, and those countries which surround us, if we are on good terms with them, are unlikely to attack us. And I think that's the solution, just being neutral, but having good relations with surrounding countries will stop us from being attacked without reason. That's all.
All right, and would anyone like to address what SG said?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I still don't agree with purchasing territory. I do think I'm against expansionism. Even buying territory, but that's it. I don't really have more to say.
All right, anything from Harmony or?
The only thing I do wish to say on that is, while I do appreciate the idea of going more so about it through a diplomatic approach, I do not think that expansionism of any kind, whether it be diplomatic or otherwise, is necessarily on the table for the nation, especially after the conflict in Signo has, caused great damage to our reputation across the globe, which we are still recovering from. I believe, though we are strained for land, expanding outwards is not something that is on the table for quite a good while. And with that, I waive my time.
All right.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
Personally, I don't really see the issue the other two, you other parties seem to have with the idea of expansionism, especially through the purchase of territory, which is purely diplomatic, and I don't see how it could end in any way badly for us. It's like I've already said, it's just a negotiation of purchasing territory, and I don't really see the same faults in that, like with conquering it, because a failed negotiation is not in any way problematic to us. I don't. It won't result in humiliation, and it won't result in any bad blood between nations, as it's. I think it's purely diplomacy, and I don't see how it would end in a problematic way.
I don't necessarily agree. I do, especially because of the conflict that we have had prior. Any attempts, even if diplomatic, at expansion are still seen as expansionism. Expanding solely for the sake of doing so. I don't think, especially after such short time of such an incident happening, we should, look towards purchasing any land, even if the negotiations don't go through, or even if the nation that is allowing us to purchase land, is very openly, public about their support for that happening. We still should not be putting ourselves in the light of expansionism so soon after such an incident spurred on by such has already occurred.
That's fair.
I believe that's it.
All right. Next is my question for the Party of National Works in Progress.
Okay, yay.
It was a view seen, not necessarily one of factual merit, but one that was definitely parroted recently. Showing concern that conflict could have been avoided had the PNWP not resigned previously. And the entire war somewhat could have been held off, although that is a debatable stance, of course, had the party not resigned, temporarily. And so the question I'd like to ask is, how can Kaiyaukuta voters trust that in the event of another major political scandal, or when the pressure really, really starts to weigh down, that the PNWP won't resign again? And you can take as long as you'd like.
I think that's a fair concern. But also that circumstances have changed and people have finally stopped defaulting to your authority, which was the major reason why I was for resigning. Is people were defaulting to your authority as because they were used to it, I suppose, and you're very influential. And they were basically ignoring me. And it made it very hard to actually do government stuff. And during the conflict, people were defaulting to your authority as well. And it kind of got to me, and then we had an argument, and it kind of got too much. But I think times have changed. I think people have finally started changing their behavior, which was the major issue. for me. Also, I believe a lot of the lies that drove us to those positions have been weeded out as well. And I believe we hopefully will be more careful in the near future. In believing statements like that. I think circumstances have definitely changed, and I I think I can be trusted to stay when going gets tough. That's all.
All right. Would anyone like to comment on that? All right. Then I'll move to my question for the Free Association of Kaiyaukuta Trade Unions. So, at the time of conflict, of the 5-5 War, or the War of Kaiyaukuta Humiliation, members of, I suppose I should say allegedly, the Faktu itself, but members of Faktu formed their own militia separate from government order, and was in fact sent materiel by Aniso before Aniso had realized that conflict was imminent. Aniso had offered snitches, and while of course you have denounced that in the past, I suppose I'm wondering, for a party, especially on the left, to have had a branch of soldiers who, before war was even confirmed, have armed themselves. And if you look back at the footage, which you can find on the wiki that you've uploaded, many of the soldiers marched into Aniso using black shields instead of Kaiyaukuta shields. How is it that Kaiyaukutaners can trust that Faktu, especially since you're in coalition with the SDK, who's threatened civil conflict, how can they trust both that Faktu won't, or affiliates of Faktu won't, engage in non-state approved violence in the future, or that tensions within ISO won't skyrocket again, or that cooperation with international leftists may lead to conflict in its own right? As I said, there have been messages that I've seen sent from especially Zhao Hongshu, but I've also seen a fair amount from Caledonia involving foreign cooperation. So why is it that Kaiyaukutaners should trust that Faktu's interests are those of Kaiyaukuta first, instead of an international leftist coalition, and not Faktu's interests first, I suppose? I don't think I asked that very well. Did my best. Take as long as you need.
Yes. You are all good with the way you ask the question. I definitely understand the concern, and as far as I'm aware, the militias proper that were being reported on, or at least like the rumors being spread of, the militia as a body itself never happened. Though I do have to, understand that there were definitely outside nations who are willing to give support specifically to, my party in regards to that conflict. And I do want to make it very clear that though I appreciate the support, we officially will not be taking sides with them against the wishes of the people of Kaiyaukuta. I do believe that the nation must come first, as I care for the people, and the people make up the nation. The people are the ones who give the government the power that it has over the nation. And to betray that for various foreign nations who, yes, provide support, but may not have the best interests of the people in mind, that is something that must be pushed back on. I definitely will be assuring that the members of the party are better in lockstep with the policies that I wish to put forward, which are focused solely on the betterment of Kaiyaukuta over all else. And serious action will be taken against those who do deviate from that, and especially finding those found associating and collaborating with foreign governments against our own nation. That is something that I wholeheartedly denounce. I wholeheartedly believe that should be, quite frankly, outlawed and pushed back on as much as humanly possible. Again, I understand the concerns, but I do truly believe that the party, especially with me as its head, does have the nation's best interests at heart. And that is all that I have to say on the matter.
All right, and would anyone like to comment on what Harmony just said?
What, sorry?
Would anyone like to comment on what Harmony had just said?
I just worry that your party was so quick to jump in on the jingoism. I don't trust that there wasn't a culture of, especially for a socialist party, of sort of internationalism, and was immediately willing to go on an offensive war. Like, even if you regret it, I don't. It doesn't feel good to know that it was so easy.
Yes, I understand that, and as you have already stated, it is something that I do deeply regret and something that I take full blame for. It is not something that I should have gone for. I should have better listened.
The problem is you can't take full blame for it, because it wasn't just you.
I failed to denounce the war. I had my doubts. The Central Committee had its doubts, but we were not public about them. We were not vocal about them. And due to that, there was no real pushback against the jingoism that the nation itself had found itself in within the fervor of war against Iniso. It was something that it was our responsibility to speak on and against, and it was something that we had failed to do prior. And it is something that I have learned from and something that I do wish to better remedy going forward.
If I may interject in the name of fact-checking, I would just like to comment that stating it was a failure to denounce the war is an understatement. As your own recording had proved, members of the Free Association of Trade Unions were actually involved as foot soldiers. So it is not simply a lack of denouncing, but a taking part in directly and with the discussions of the militia intent to begin regardless of government policy. Just as an interjection.
Yes, I do think in all regards it is fair to say that is an understatement, that it was simply a failure to denounce as we were directly involved. And a lot of that came down to my own personal decision to state that we should be putting political policy aside to unify as a nation against something that much of us had seen as a threat with the information that we were given at the time.
I could understand that, but when your head of state was against the war and you didn't consult with the head of state at all, it's rather disingenuous to say that it was against your government or against your nation. I feel like it was a more of a whipped up fervor than actually wanting to support your nation. Because I wasn't consulted about any of it. I wasn't consulted about any of your plans or any of your militarism.
A lot of the, I mean, yes, it was us being caught up in favor. That is something that I have stated numerous times, and something that, again, as stated at the beginning of this discussion, is, deeply regretted by myself and much of the party. And I'm sorry. Could you please repeat the other part of that?
I don't remember what I said.
Then I apologize. It is a topic that I can only really continue to apologize for, and one that I can only say that we are learning from, and will absolutely do better to evaluate on in the future. In terms of joining offensive wars, it is something that I will likely not really allow again, even if it is, seen as it's seen as something that should be done in defense of the nation. Which should be a defensive war in that case that we should be doing, not something that's done offensively as a defensive action. Diplomacy should always come first, and it is something that I had simply, in the moment, failed to really take into account, and it is something that I apologize for deeply.
Yeah. I just feel as if I feel as if it was I feel as if it was just a great failing in general, to completely ignore what I had to say and ignore diplomacy to start a war or even get geared up for war. Or not to even consult what I had to say at all, because you frankly didn't come to the government to ask what was going on.
Yes, and again, that is something that I had failed to do. It was something that I had heard much of my information in regards to the conflict before it started was due to a lot of these speakings within the public, and not something that I had listened to you directly on, and that was a complete blunder and mistake to do. You were the head of state at that point, and your words should have been something that, while we could critique, is something that we should have still listened to, taken into account, and better evaluated, especially with our own concerns as a party on whether or not the war itself was just and right, which it turns out in hindsight, and as we should have believed, further believed, was absolutely not.
Yeah. I sorry, Barbo just said, speaking of 2 cents, Kaiyaukuta should make a reserve for all public funds. We already have. We have a public works fund. Anyway, sorry.
Is
Yeah,
there
that's
anything
all.
you would wish to? Okay.
All right, at this time, I think it's appropriate to take audience questions. Mark, I understand we never got to your Anti-Radicalism Act, but that's not... Right now, we need questions from the audience. So that's from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who've stayed the whole time. Thank you so much. So from you 5, I want to hear questions specifically from you all. And if no one has any in 2 minutes, then I'm going to move on to the last questions, which are going to be about the political coalitions. Gotten a meow in chat. Oh, Mark is leaving the mines. The great judge is leaving the mines to come on. Don't Varbo girly pop. Last time you did that, you almost drowned me. Not doing that again, Varbo. Almost drowned me last time, Varbo. So now we have to wait for Mark to show up all the way over here. So, no, don't break the glass. Don't break the glass. No, we're not gonna break the glass. No, don't do that. Yeah, there we go. You're waving. You're just saying hi. Oh, hi, hi. Apparently, Mark. Ooh, okay. This isn't this isn't really. I mean, I guess it is foreign policy. First, very important question from Shadno of Icenia. Will you post marmots?
You know, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I think I prefer other rodents other than marmots. I'm sorry.
Does anyone else want to address that?
Support revoked.
Oh, I can't. What was just said in chat?
Support revoked from Iris.
Support of what? Huh? What?
Support was revoked from Iris because they said I didn't like
Crazy.
marmots that much.
Answer Toon's question. I mean, I suppose first I'll ask Sarah's question. All right, Sarah asked, how do the parties intend on stopping conflicts from arising again if another crisis is to rise up, be it with Aniso or Scandic or any other party? And that's for all of you, if any of you want to answer.
I think it's a good idea to try and encourage a culture of questioning the validity of war and aggression. I don't think. I think there's still a lot of people in Kaiyaukuta that are just all too willing to do things hostily against other countries. And I think we need to really encourage a better culture around that. Because I think even if a government were to support a war, if the people don't, then the war goes nowhere. That's all. Also, Iris wants you to look in the debate chat.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for if anyone else wanted to comment on how it is that we prevent conflict from rising from crisis, because that's kind of an important one.
I'll also answer. The Liberty Party intends to mostly stop conflict, well, through diplomacy. It's a bad idea for us to, in any case, fall into another war, and it would end very badly for us, I feel like. So we should try diplomacy, and we should also stop this revanchism that some Kaiyakutans have, and generally try to foster a more peaceful mindset. That's all.
I find myself in agreement with the other two candidates on stage.
All right. Since Mark hasn't asked, Mark just arrived. You're gonna have to wait because we have a question from Toon Tasker, from I believe the Hello Kitty Islands, who asked a fairly important question. I'm just gonna read this verbatim, and I'll let all of you address it. And I quote, After the senseless raid and pillaging of Withervale that lasted multiple days, the existence of the I believe it's the Southern Strategic Defense Cooperative, greatly affected the dynamic between Wintervale and Groveheart, and has had an immense amount of influence on the response that other nations could take in support of Wintervale. As Kaiyaukuta is of similar size and military preparedness, how do you reconcile the SSDC's apparent defense of Groveheart with a future potential state-sponsored raid on either Kaiyaukuta or a similarly sized nation elsewhere?
I believe that's a pretty important question. It's a hard one because either we're currently under diplomatic threat, and there's problems with the SSDC, sure, but they're also the only and sort of best option that we have for a reliable alliance to face our current threats. I'd be willing to cooperate with other organizations, but we don't get attention from those. We don't get attention from a lot of places. We're kind of isolated diplomatically at the moment, and it's a very precarious position. I personally wouldn't be in support of any state-sponsored raids, obviously. And it does look like Groveheart has apologized for it. I think it's a horrible thing to have done in the first place. But I don't know. It's a hard one. If we weren't in such a precarious position, it wouldn't be needed. But unfortunately, I think it is needed. I think it's a needed alliance. We need something. And currently we don't have that. We don't have that protection. And it's quite we're in an unfortunate position. That's all.
If anyone else would like to address the question?
Tend to be in general agreement.
I would also denounce such actions as raids, especially towards smaller nations which can not really defend themselves. And I feel like but that's not just a shared sentiment between all of our parties. I believe that's a shared sentiment around the entire world, internationally as well.
All right. And Mark has failed to yet ask any questions, so as I wait for Mark to finally ask the question that he ran all the way over here to ask, we have another question from Shadno asking, how do the parties plan to resolve the incoming sky bridge from Icenia? Which I answered as a joke by shipping Physics Gamer, like the German ship Lenin's, to Russia, and Shadno has responded, turning the sky bridge around. If anyone would like to comment.
I plan on DDoSing. Shadno.
Would anyone else like to give their 2 cents?
I mean, that seems to be a suitable response.
All right, Mark, I said foreign policy questions, Mark. Not internal policy, specifically foreign policy. Okay, Mark, you're asking more internal policy questions here, Mark. You were here for that. You could have asked that. Mark. I'm going to give you one more chance, then we're going to move on. Because we've been doing this for about 3 hours now. Okay, he's leaving. All right, so there's been some talk, very limited on the right, extensive on the left, about political coalitions forming. And so first, I want to talk on the right. Have the Liberty Party, the Party for National Works in Progress, and the Woolly Bull Party uh, even considered engaging or unifying in a sort of united front ticket, or is that entirely off the table? I'll let you two discuss.
I'm unsure about. I'm unsure. I'm unsure about the Woolly Bully party. It's a big maybe on that one, but definitely not with the Liberty Party. I believe a lot of our policies are in direct contradiction.
I can only agree with that. It seems to me like the Faktu and the Pnwp are much more similar in their policy than the Pnwp is to the Liberty Party, and I think a coalition seems a bit unrealistic. And personally, I don't know much about the policy of the Woolly Bull Party. I haven't read up on it, but so I can't really state an opinion.
All right. And I'll then give a reverse question for Facto, and unfortunately the SDK isn't here to engage. Regarding the SDK's, relative radicalism and somewhat political toxicity as compared to the other four parties, how close do you consider the coalition to be, and is there a consideration for the left coalition to break in some way? And I'll let you address that however you like.
I do wish to specify that the coalition that was originally in talks with the SDK was something that was done earlier on before the conflict with Aniso and Signo had occurred. After such and seeing such, especially even outstanding the jingoism and fervor that was overtaking much of the nation, seeing it particularly within the SDK was something that raised a few red flags with us and had us already questioning on whether this was a good idea. And it is good to point out that this coalition had never truly been finalized. This was something that we had never settled on. It was always in discussion, but it was not something that was completed. And especially now seeing that they are, advocating for things such as a Kaiyaukuta civil war, it is something that I believe has broken the camel's back, and it is something that they have found themselves in a position where we no longer find it to be, you know, right in any way to enter coalition with them.
Well, right. I'd like
That
to.
is all.
Sorry. I'd like to thank you two for showing up. I hope you and all the other parties can find candidates for local elections, as hopefully Mirabelle, Mark, and I will talk about finalizing the legislative system, and there will be a lower house. Council of Mayors. I'm not making that elected. Fuck that. You can pry Stranbury out of my cold, pearled hands. But when it comes to, lower positions, just know that you all might want to start looking for local representatives, branching out to not just be a national party, but local parties as well. And with just that notice out of the way, I'd like to thank you three for coming. I'd like to thank the beautiful audience that's come from around the world to witness. My apologies to everyone who died in that terrorist attack right there, real quick. And yeah, thank you all for coming. I'll allow all three of you to make quick closing statements, starting with SG Weiss.
I also thank everyone for coming. Overall, I think it's quite disheartening to see that the Pnwp is so different in policy. I think this debate has made that clear. And other than that, I wish every party in it which is here today a good voting season.
All right, Mirabelle, I'd like you to make your closing statements.
I was glad that we could have the debate today. I'm sad to see Lisa not being able to make it. But it was nice to get the platform out there. And be able to debate with the Faktu. And it was also disheartening to know just how different the Liberty Party and PNWP's policies are. That's all.
And all right, Harmony, I'd like you to make your closing statements.
I do want to end this on a quick note. There has been some concern among quite a few people that much of the popularity of the Faktu comes simply due to the fact that we are the leftmost party within the nation. And I do want to state and stress that if your only reason for supporting our party is due to the fact that we are the leftmost party, then I wish for you to better consider our policies, our stances, or to simply, just put more thought into it. I don't wish to see our popularity come solely due to the fact that we are where we are on the political spectrum. I want you to be educated, and I want you to make a choice that you truly believe is right for the nation, not one that just better ideologically aligns with yourself. And so I do ask, please take my positions and policies into account when you go and vote. And with that, I do truly believe that we have a shot at making a much better Kaiyaukuta, and I do wish best of luck to the other parties involved in the election, and I wish for them a great election season. That is all.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, I think the debate can come to a close. Again, thank you three very much for showing up. Thank all of you for staying and sticking around and listening. To people who have met the requirements for voting in Kaiyaukuta, it'll be updated momentarily. I'll go through and check everyone's play hours. You need 15 hours to vote in Kaiyaukuta, logged on the Playtime app, website, whatever. There's a poll asking who you'd vote for if the election were right now. I'd appreciate it if you could give that a second. Just go give your honest thoughts. And yeah, with that out of the way, I'm going to end tonight's broadcast. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Good night.